Ys origin plays 700 years before the events of Ys 1. It has 3 campaigns with a protagonist for each, and for this video I played all of them. The new system, dubbed Napishtim, is semi-isometric action with verticality, and way better than the bumper system. Each character has 3 different elemental attacks, and plays differently. Besides normal attacks, you also have a boost that improves your stats. Your defensive option is still only not standing where the enemy will hit, and feels lacking, but the combat is enjoyable enough for me. The progression is very linear. You find items, equip the newest ones, and level up. There's also SP, but that's just buying whatever is available. It's so straightforward with almost no decision making that I could have just removed the level based progression altogether. There are also puzzles and boss fights. Puzzles now consist of platforming and pathfinding, which I detest with a passion. But it's made easy and quick, so I'm fine with it. The 3 characters are Unica, Hugo and Toll. I will go through the story of the first 2 and then discuss the biggest problem Ys has. This time I will not show the intro, because everything you see in it will be brought up within the game, to a much bigger extent and in my opinion also better. Unica is a young girl, and next in the succession line of the Tova family, one of the 6 families that rule over Ys. The land of Ys was prosperous with magic and Claria, ruled by 2 goddesses and 6 priests. Then demons appeared and they used magic to let Solomon's shrine fly. The demons built a dam tower to reach the shrine. Then the goddesses Fina and Rhea vanished from the shrine. It was quickly concluded that they headed down to the land that should later be called Esteria. So a search team was formed to find, protect and bring the goddesses back. Unica, more or less, forced herself into the search team. Her father was the commander of the Holy Knights and died in battle with the demons. He stayed behind so the flight magic could be finished without interference from the demons. Some parts of this is revealed in Unica's talk with the Rhoda tree. She then travels to the Dam Tower because the tree suggested her to do so. If one day some magical tree tells you to head into the base of demons, I suggest not following Unica's example. We meet with the rest of the search team. With some, especially the knights, Unica has a history. Others she meets for the first time. For now we decide to climb the tower alone, with the excuse of reconnaissance. The tower is just world-breaking puzzle nonsense. Everything is made for the player, not so much made as an actual magical tower, to reach the land of Ys. If they took world building seriously, they would have made a giant staircase, with open rooms for demons and magical devices, not a vertical theme park. We also meet Darklings, humans that not only use a different kind of magic, but can also control demons. They serve as the antagonists through the whole game. We battle our way up the tower and meet other people from the search team. What's a bit weird about this is that we actually introduce ourselves to each other, at least when it comes to many of the mages. We got sent off with magic down to the ground from Ys, so we had to meet before. Either this is a plot hole so the player get an introduction to most characters, or they hastily made a search team and sent them off without any mission briefing or time to prepare. That would also explain why we could upgrade our weapons instead of having the best equipment from the start, which would be more appropriate in regards to the importance of the mission. I don't want to play down the idle conversations we have. Roy, for example, our childhood friend and fellow knight to Unica, likes to poke at her. There's a real connection between those characters, but most of them are not very developed. They are side characters in every aspect you can think of, but they give the feeling of being real characters if the game would have shown more, and that's fairly important to me. But I cannot say much about them because neither does the game. The boss fights in this game are pretty good. They have unique mechanics and not a single boss fight feels repetitive. Many bosses are references to Ys 1. We already fought them in the first games and now we know where they came from. At one point, Unica meets Fina. Unica has probably the strongest connection to the goddesses. They are good friends since Unica was little. We learn that the goddesses took the Black Pearl with them, and it's in the hands of Rhea. Fina gets abducted in return for the Darklings sparing Unica's life. Our duel before this is with Kishgal, a Darkling that defeated Unica's father. Shortly after this duel, we find Unica's father's weapon, and his ghosts appear. He gives the usual trust in yourself high fantasy crap. Yunika is pressured from the fact that she is the next leader of the Tova family and does not have the seemingly common ability to use magic, which both allies and enemies remark, although in different tone. Even though the things she does look a lot like magic to me. After some tower climbing we meet Rhea, who's with the Black Pearl. I wish I could say more about this scene, but it's just a brief meeting and Rhea can't tell us anything and she needs to do something. It's aggravating when the plot only works due to the lack of communication. In this case it wouldn't really change anything if they talk to Yunika, but the 6 priests are said to be overwhelmingly powerful. Why don't the goddesses take them with them? They think there's a traitor among them, I can spoiler this much for you, but there are still 5 priests on the goddess's side that could easily detain or defeat the one traitor. This mission is of high importance, so why did they prepare for it like a short summer walk in the garden? No equipment, not a single guard, no scouting. But they often say how important their mission is, and then they fail to act in accordance. Makes this whole ordeal have less impact. This is called a performative contradiction, by the way. We find out that Fina is held at Rados' annex, with the same puzzle Rhea was held in Ys 1. You need to equip a ring that makes you evil to pass the door, which is conveniently found just right before the annex. This creates some questions though. First, why do demons have this ring in the first place? And secondly, why don't they take a single key item with them? The enemies can teleport through the tower. They wouldn't even need doors. If they just didn't build staircases, we would lose. Fina is behind a magical barrier, and it will take until the last boss to break it. We also learn that the enemy leader is called Dallas, the same one from Ys 2. We and the other search team members confront him, and he turns everyone into stone, which we of course undo within an hour. This makes him in Ys 2 retroactively hilarious. He always goes around turning people into stone, never does that to the main character, and it never works. Someone always comes along with some dreaming idol and undoes his signature move. Shortly before the last boss, Roy, Unika's childhood friend, sacrifices himself to save Yunika. Is it tragic? Yes. Do the mittens make it hilarious? Also yes. How can she even hold a weapon with this? Before Dallas, we confront and kill Kishgal and avenge Yunika's father. The scene with Dallas haunts me. I have seen this scene way too many times, and it makes me hate that you cannot really skip dialogue. This origin is not really made for modern systems, and it always crashed on the scene. And to fix this, I tried out different stuff, then I returned and had to watch the whole thing again, and I had to do that over and over, till I found a program called Large Address Aware, which increases the usable RAM for the origin executable. Dallas transforms into a giant demon and we beat him. He wanted to bring Ys down so he can gather all the magic from the Pearl in one place to make the perfect light form. Rhea and Fina then seal the Black Pearl, which is the source of magic and demons, and turn into stone. We bury them deep down below the ground, like they said we should. Yunika and the other young people stay on the ground to help rebuild everything. There are only 2 males and 2 females, which seems to be a lot of work for Yunika, and definitely not enough gene variety to sustain a population without the whole 3 thumbs and 2 heads problem. Yunika's personal part in the story was about finding confidence and becoming stronger. Yunika starts off as a girl that wants to do her best and is friendly, and that never changes. Yugo on the other hand is a real piece of work. He treats his friends with disdain, and even his childhood friend Miusha often cries because of him. The overall story is the same, but there are key differences. First, while Yunika knew the knights, Yugo knows the mages. He also is pressured by his power-hungry father, who constantly trains him to be a powerful mage. He even gives Yugo a secret mission: kill Toll, his brother. Toll stayed behind with the commander Tova. Yugo hates Toll because of his father and also because he feels left behind by him. Yugo has a more personal story with Epona, a darkling. They talk a lot, which reveals a lot about Yugo and his family history. This evolves into something like a weird friendship with possible romance. Also, because Yugo is now the main character, he does the things Yunika did. He beats the bosses meets Fina and Ria and so on. The bosses in some locations changed, but it's usually the same bosses. It's heavily hinted that Toll is still on E's side and cares for his brother, but Hugo is too stubborn to realize this. Toll got stronger by accepting demonic essence into him, which makes him effectively a demon. After some battles, Hugo realizes his faults, which are caused by his father's indoctrination. In that sense, Hugo's questline succeeds where Unikas failed. Hugo has real character development. At one point he even accepts demonic essence into himself, and Epona dies for him. He then opens up to the other characters. After defeating Toll, the rest of the game is just the same. And here, before going into Toll's story, is my biggest problem. All of this was not canon. Everything that happens in Unikas' line or Hugo's is just filler. Filler that is the prerequisite to play the real canon story. It's like fanfiction made by the developer, which can be fine as extra content, but not as part of the main game. Beating the same bosses, seeing the same scenes 3 times in a row was the most boring experience. Beating the same enemies, seeing the same scenes 3 times in a row was the most boring experience. Beating the same bosses, playing the same scenes 3 times in a row was the most boring experience. If you don't find a fault with this game's structure, then you would not mind me saying my lines 3 times in a row like just now, with only slight alterations, because that is in essence this game. I would be much more positive about this if I could just play the canon story first, and then you could do the rest at your own pace and volition. Maybe they could have made it all canon. It would even fit with the story. Every character splits up to search the tower. So why not having each character play its own path and bosses? Then you could sometimes meet the other characters who are on their own path. Not only would this remove the repetition, it would be an interesting story structure. Toll starts on top of the tower and feels very cold and distant from the rest of the Darklings. They don't trust him, which makes the whole story as odd as it gets. Because at the end, of course, Toll will betray them, and Dallas says he knew that it would come to this. Why accepting him in the first place? We get teleported to the start of the tower and battle the same levels. We fight sometimes the other members of the search party, and it zips through that Toll has another goal and he pretends to be on the Darkling's side. There are often flashbacks, and I think Toll was in love with Ria. At the midpoint, after speaking with both Fina and Ria, Toll decides to fully turn on the Darklings and hunt them down. On this line, neither Roy nor Epona dies, and for the whole cast it's probably the best outcome. Hugo will still shortly turn into a demon, and you can guess what's happening on Hugo's and Unikas' line. So it was not complete for naught playing their story. It's also nice seeing other characters helping you. The scene with Dallas at the top is almost the same, but then Kane Fact, the father of Hugo and Toll, comes down and it's revealed that he instigated all of this, informed the Darklings, building the tower, so he can fuse with the Black Pearl and become Dam, the Demon King. Because he's absent from the whole game and he was already an asshole on Hugo's questline, it fails to impress. It's just, yeah, whatever. We beat him in his Dam form and the game is over. The rest plays out almost the same, with the key difference that Toll changes back to being a full human. And he returns to East to write the 6 books from the first 2 games. It's a bit video gamey because each of these books contain only 10 lines each. They are less legendary books of East and more pamphlets. He writes those to help future generations when Dam comes back, which makes this whole cryptic bullshit from the first games, what you read in the books, hilarious. They were of literally no help at all for Adol Christen. He also hides his silver sword below the tree, where Adol Christen finds it 700 years later, which was of help, I give him that. Ys Origin had better gameplay and increased the lore of the Ys world. It suffered from 3 campaigns that are overall the same content. It also missed out on more interesting storytelling. If it was not for this video, I would have probably stopped after playing Unikas' campaign. It's nice to see how the legendary 6 pamphlets of Ys were made. The next game in this series will be Ys 4 Celceta. But before that I will make a short video about Eiyuden Chronicles Rising. Farewell.